The dust in Red Rock had a way of swallowing truth, grinding it down until only the version the town wanted remained. That was the world Nayeli had grown up in. A world where a woman like her, born of two cultures, belonged everywhere and nowhere at the same time. She learned early how to walk with her chin high, even when people whispered behind her back. How to keep her voice calm when their eyes cut sharper than any blade. Yet none of that strength prepared her for the moment they decided she no longer deserved to live. They had been waiting for an excuse, any excuse. A missing horse, a spooked child, a shadow near the river. Everything wrong in Red Rock somehow became her fault. The fact that she survived alone, hunted and judged, only fed their resentment. So when a settler claimed he had seen her speaking with Apache riders near the foothills, it was all the evidence they needed. They didn't question why she might have been there, didn't ask what she had been doing, or whether she was helping keep peace as she often did. They just wanted someone to blame, and she was convenient. They dragged her through the town square while her wrists bled against the rough rope. She did not scream, did not beg. Fear rose in her throat, but she swallowed it like bitter medicine. Her mother had always told her, "They can take your freedom, but don't let them take your spirit." The people surrounding her weren't strangers. They were the same ones she had traded with, helped, greeted on market days. Somehow, that betrayal hurt more than the kicks and slurs they threw at her as they pushed her to the wagon. A woman she once healed with herbs wouldn't even meet her eyes. The sheriff tried to hide the tremor in his hands as he read off her so-called crimes, though everyone knew justice had nothing to do with it. A hush fell when the noose slipped around her neck. The world narrowed to the rough fibers biting her skin and the sky that stretched endlessly above her. She lifted her eyes to it, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. If this was her end, she would meet it with the dignity they never believed she had. And yet, beneath her calm, a silent prayer trembled. One last hope that the world held at least a single soul who might still see her worth. Moments later, that hope thundered into the square on horseback. Colton Hayes had always been a man who minded his own business, the kind who fixed fences, broke horses, and stayed out of town politics. But that morning, something unsettled him, an instinct as old as survival itself. He rode fast, following nothing but a feeling gnawing at the back of his mind. Dust streamed behind him as he pushed his horse harder than he ever had. And when he reached the hill overlooking Red Rock, the sight below hit him like a rifle butt to the chest. A crowd, a rope, a woman hanging from it. Not just any woman, it was Nayeli. For a heartbeat he couldn't breathe. Blood rushed in his ears, drowning everything except the sickening image of her body swaying gently, as if the world had the right to take her from him. He didn't remember kicking his horse into a full, reckless gallop. He didn't remember shoving men out of his way or ignoring their shouts. All he remembered was the moment he reached her, the moment he saw her face, pale and still, and the way something in him tore open. He cut the rope with a single savage slice of his knife. Her body collapsed into his arms, warm but frighteningly limp. He pressed his ear to her chest, desperate for any sign of life, some flicker of breath. When he heard the faint whisper of her heartbeat, relief flooded him so sharply he nearly buckled. The crowd murmured, anger rising like a hive kicked open. Someone shouted that he had no right to interfere. Someone else demanded she be strung back up. Colton stood slowly, lifting her against him with a gentleness that didn't match the fury rising in his chest. His voice came out low, dangerous, trembling with a rage he almost never lets surface. "She breathes," he said, "and as long as she does, she's under my protection." The sheriff tried to speak, but Colton shut him down with a glare sharp enough to cut steel. He could feel the entire town watching him, questioning him, judging him, preparing to challenge him, but he didn't care. All that mattered was the woman in his arms, the one who had stood on his land months ago with fire in her eyes and a quiet strength he'd never been able to forget. He mounted his horse, holding her close, shielding her from the eyes that wanted to see her dead. As he turned to leave, he threw one last warning over his shoulder. "Anyone who tries to touch her will answer to me." Red Rock had seen him angry before, but never like this. And as he rode away, no one dared stop him. The man who never looked back didn't need to. He knew exactly what he had chosen. And he knew he would fight the whole town if he had to. Back at the ranch, the world shrank to a single room, a single heartbeat, and a single question. Would she live? Colton laid Nayeli on his own bed, hands shaking in a way that embarrassed a man like him. He wasn't afraid of bullets or storms or outlaws, but the stillness of her face, that terrified him in a way nothing else ever had. Her breathing was shallow, each inhale thin as a thread. The rope burns around her neck stood out like cruel brands against her skin. Colton had seen injuries before, but this was different. This wasn't a wound from a fight or an accident. This was something inflicted by people who believed they had the right to end her life. He stayed at her bedside, refusing to let anyone else tend to her. She drifted in and out of consciousness, her lashes flickering like fragile wings, her voice barely above a breath. When she whispered his name the first time, broken and hoarse, something inside him loosened, like a knot that had been strangling him from the inside. He helped her sip water, steadying her trembling hands with his own. Every time she winced, he flinched with her. Every time she slept, he sat there keeping watch, afraid to blink. Afraid she'd slip away if he looked away even for a moment. Sometimes her eyes opened with a kind of fear that sliced him to the bone. "Why am I here?" she murmured once. Her voice rasped raw. "Why did you take me down?" Colton brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, his fingertips gentle in a way they had never been with anyone else. "Because they were wrong," he said quietly. "Because they don't get to decide your worth." But the truth ran deeper than that. He had admired her from the moment she stepped onto his land. Brave, self-sufficient, carrying centuries of strength in her gaze. She had saved his youngest brother when a rattlesnake struck near the barn. She had warned him more than once of dangers in the hills. She never asked for anything in return. She lived with dignity in a world determined to deny her even the smallest kindness. One night, while the lantern burned low, she whispered, "They hate me for what I am." Colton's jaw tightened. "No," he said firmly. "They hate what they're too small to understand." She stared at him, eyes glistening, as if trying to measure the truth of his words. And for the first time, since the rope nearly stole her voice forever, she let herself believe she wasn't alone. Not anymore. The news spread through Red Rock like wildfire. Colton Hayes had cut down the woman they meant to hang, carried her off like she was treasure, and dared anyone to question him. By the next morning, fear, pride, and wounded egos twisted into a dangerous mix. Men who once whispered behind closed doors now gathered openly, rifles slung across their backs, their sense of authority feeling threatened. The idea that she still lived, breathing the same air they claimed belonged only to them, gnawed at their brittle sense of power. And the fact that Colton, a man they respected and feared in equal measure, had chosen her over their verdict made it worse. They didn't just want her dead, they wanted their word to remain untouchable. Colton saw them long before they reached the ranch. Dust rose from the line of riders like a warning cloud. He stood outside with his rifle strapped across his shoulder, but his hands empty, an unspoken message that he wasn't looking for war, but he wasn't afraid of one either. His posture alone kept the tension sharp enough to draw blood. Behind him, Nayeli stepped out slowly. She was still weak, wrapped in one of his shirts, but her spine was straight, her spirit unbroken, even bruised and healing. She carried a presence that unsettled small-minded men, because it didn't matter how hard they tried, they couldn't strip dignity from someone who refused to surrender it. The sheriff rode forward, clearing his throat, pretending authority he didn't feel. "Colton, hand her over. The town wants justice." Colton didn't move. "Justice isn't what you want," he said evenly. "You want obedience." A murmur rippled down the line. Some men gripped their rifles tighter. Others looked away, shame flickering across their faces. Nayeli took a single step forward, her voice soft but unwavering. "If your justice were true," she said, "you would not fear a woman standing before you. You fear me because my blood is not yours, because I do not bow, because I exist outside the lines you drew." Her words cut sharper than any blade. Several riders shifted uneasily. The sheriff's face reddened. "This ain't about blood," he lied weakly. Colton let out a humorless laugh. "It's always about that with you." The air grew heavy, a standoff bound to snap at the slightest twitch. Colton's gaze swept the line, calm but dangerous. "If any of you want to take her," he said steadily, "you ride through me first, and I promise you won't reach the porch." Silence fell, thick and choking. No one moved. Because whatever hatred they felt toward Nayeli, it wasn't stronger than the fear of crossing a man who had nothing left to lose. One by one, with muttered curses and downcast eyes, they turned their horses around and rode back to town. The moment the dust settled, Nayeli's knees weakened, and Colton caught her effortlessly. "You don't need to stand in their fire," he whispered. She looked up at him, strength simmering behind her exhaustion. "And you don't need to shield me from all of it, but you do." He pressed his forehead to hers, breath unsteady, not from fear of the crowd, but from the depth of what he almost lost. "I'll shield you for as long as you let me." And for the first time in her life, she let someone. The days that followed settled into a quiet neither of them had ever known. Peace, layered with unspoken promises. Nayeli healed slowly, every breath easing the tightness in Colton's chest. The ranch hands, once wary, began to see her not as the woman the town condemned, but as the one who moved with grace despite her wounds, who treated injured horses with gentleness, who worked without complaint even when her body begged her to rest. She earned respect the same way she'd survived her life, quietly, steadily, without demanding it. And Colton watched, always nearby, as if afraid she might disappear the moment he looked away. But Nayeli wasn't the one fading. It was her fear. Day by day, the strength inside her, the one the rope couldn't kill, grew back like a flame relighting itself. One afternoon, when she was strong enough to wander, she walked toward the cottonwood trees at the edge of the ranch, the place where the wind always carried stories. Colton followed her at a distance, giving her space until she stopped and turned, sensing him long before she heard him. He held something in his hand, the rope they had used to hang her. She froze, breath catching, not in terror, but in the weight of memory. Colton stepped closer, his expression somber. Without a word, he cut the rope into pieces, each slice deliberate, each one severing the past a little more. The remains fell to the ground, like scraps of a nightmare, finally losing its power. No part of this, he said quietly, gets to own you anymore. Her throat tightened. She had never seen someone destroy a symbol of her pain for her sake. She had never seen someone choose her, not out of need, not out of convenience, but out of conviction. You turned the moment they meant to end me into the moment I began again, she whispered. Colton shook his head. No, you survived that rope because you're stronger than they ever understood. I just refuse to let them take you. She stepped closer until the space between them vanished. Her hand rose to his chest, feeling the steady beat beneath her palm. All my life, she murmured, I was something the world didn't know where to place. Too much of one thing, too little of another. But you, her voice softened, you look at me like I am whole. He brushed his thumb across her cheek, gaze intense, voice low. You are whole, and you're mine, if you want to be. For the first time since the rope tightened around her throat, she felt her future instead of her fear. She leaned into him, not as someone who needed saving, but as someone who chose to stay. In that moment, under the whispering cottonwoods, Nayeli understood the truth. She didn't rise because he cut her down. She rose because she was meant to. And now, she rose with him. In the end, Nayeli's story became more than the tale of a woman nearly taken by a town's hatred. It became a testament to the unbreakable spirit that rises when the world expects it to fall. They hanged her for being different, for being born of two bloodlines they feared, for carrying strength they could not understand. But they failed to see that strength is not measured by the purity of blood, but by the courage of the heart. And when the rope tried to silence her, destiny sent someone who saw her worth long before she ever believed she had any. Colton didn't save her because she was weak. He saved her because he recognized the fire inside her. Because he knew the world needed people who refused to bow to cruelty, who stood tall, even when surrounded by those who wished them small. Together, they fought not only for her life, but for the right of every soul who has ever been judged for their identity, their heritage, or the pieces of themselves others could not categorize. Their stand against Red Rock was not a rebellion of violence, but of truth. It proved that one act of courage can collapse an entire mountain of ignorance, that one voice defending another can echo louder than a mob's fury. Nayeli healed not just from the rope, but from the belief that she had to survive alone. And Colton learned that sometimes the strongest thing a person can do is choose to protect someone the world has condemned. Their story reminds us that no matter how tight the noose of society's judgment becomes, there will always be people willing to cut it down. That love, real love, does not ask where you come from, what you're made of, or what the world calls you. It simply chooses you, fiercely, fearlessly, completely. Nayeli walked back into life with scars on her neck, but fire in her soul. She rose where she was meant to fall, stood where she was meant to break, and found a home where she was meant to be cast out. And beside her stood a man who didn't claim to own her, but who chose to walk with her into a future neither of them could have imagined. In a world quick to judge and quicker to condemn, their story stands as a reminder. When the world tries to hang you for being who you are, rise again. Rise louder, rise stronger, and rise with those who see your worth when others choose not to.